Welcome back to another episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And we are continuing our training camp position breakdown. Today, we're continuing on the offensive side of the ball, where we will be talking about the offensive line. We've gotten quite a bit of news about the offensive line over the past week, so we will update you guys on all that. And I'll give you my thoughts on starters, backups, players on the bubble, as well as some potential free agents. So, got a lot to talk about tonight. Before we get started, I see those views are starting to trickle in. So, as you guys know, this show is fueled by Fifth Quarter Nation. So, if you're watching from Facebook or YouTube, be sure to get in the comments. Let me know who you are, where you're watching from, how long you've been a Cowboys fan, or any questions or comments that you may have about tonight's topic, which is the offensive line. All right, we'll do a little bit more housekeeping and then we'll get into the show. So, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you get a chance, make sure you check out the DC4L Facebook page. Just go on Facebook, type in DC4L. A lot of great content, a lot of great conversation, a lot of prizes, a lot of giveaways, a lot of trivia. There may still be one or two fantasy football positions left. So if you're a fantasy football fanatic, be sure to join and try to get in one of those Facebook groups. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook, which I see Facebook is starting to grow pretty quick. If you guys get a chance at some point during the show or after the show, make sure you also go over to YouTube, type in DC4L, find that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, help them on their way to 1,000. And then also, if you get a chance, go find me at Bluff City Cowboys on YouTube, hit that subscribe button as well. Once both pages get to 1,000 subscribers, we will be giving away an autographed jersey. So if you guys want a chance to win that jersey, make sure you get those subscriptions up on both of those pages. And as always, make sure you hit that like button so we can get those likes matching those views. All right, so like I said before, topic of the show tonight is offensive line. Let's see, we got Lee Harrison joining us as always, another regular to the show. So Lee, thank you for joining us. I see we got quite a few people watching on Facebook tonight, so make sure you guys hit that like button. And also make sure you get in the comments. Let us know what you think about what we're talking about if you have any questions. Got Jack Meeker joining us again, another longtime follower. Definitely appreciate you tuning in. One more thing before we get started. So every year I host a fantasy football league myself personally. There's no entry fee to get in. We do a cash prize of $100. It's mostly composed of fans of the show, other podcasters. So you guys remember Star Game Pick Six, got a couple guys from there. We got the guys from UK Cowboys in there. We have Charlie from Dallas Cowboys chatting there. George Teague from Teague's Take is also in there. And then we got a couple of longtime viewers like Mendoza and Jeff. I believe we may have 2 spots open. So if anybody wants to join the Fantasy Football League, make sure to just send me a DM after the show, and we could try to fill that up. For those of you who've been following me for a while, as you know, we do the fantasy draft live on the show. So at some point in August, we will be doing the fantasy show. So if you guys just want to hear some Cowboys talk, we're all Cowboys fans. We normally try to do it during the time of a Cowboys preseason game, usually the 3rd or 4th game, or 2nd or 3rd game now. So if you guys just want to join us, talk some Cowboys, give us some help on our draft picks, want to rag on us a little bit about the draft picks we make, It's usually a pretty good show. Takes a couple hours. You get to see a lot of familiar faces. So it's going to be a lot of Cowboys knowledge on the screen at one time. So if you guys don't want to join the fantasy football league, you just want to do that, feel free to join us for that show. I know last week I did the show on Thursday. I was considering doing the show on Thursday going forward, but I realized that tomorrow is the Hall of Fame game. So we are finally going to see some football starting tomorrow night. So tomorrow, as well as every subsequent Thursday, we're going to start seeing some football games. So I didn't want to compete with NFL games, and I want to watch them myself, to be quite honest. So I'm going to continue to stick with Wednesday nights until the season starts. All right, so that's pretty much all I got in terms of housekeeping. Let's go ahead and get into the show. Topic of the night is offensive line. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. So we're going to start off first because it's a lot of offensive linemen. We're not going to do position by position. We're going to do just units as a whole. So starters, backups, so on and so forth. Let's go ahead, hop first into the who I think are the projected starters as we enter training camp. So let's see. Of course, Terrence Steele, Tyler Booker at guard, Cooper Beebe retains his spot as the center. Then we got Tyler Smith at left guard, and then I have a question mark at left tackle. Hey guys, hold on 1 second. I gotta close my door. All right, so I put a question mark right here because, as you guys know, we just lost Tyler Guyton to an injury. At first, they feared that it may have been a torn ACL. Luckily, after the MRI, they realized that it was just a bone fracture, which, I mean, that is good news, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to have a healthy season. You guys follow the Cowboys. You know how they are with injuries. A 2-week injury can become a 8-week injury. They're calling this injury 4 to 6 weeks. That could easily be 3 months. Do not be surprised if Tyler Guyton starts off the season on the PUP list. I'll just put it out there. So for me, they're going to start a competition at that tackle position. I don't think they're going to go outside of the facility to find a replacement. To be honest, just looking at the free agent list is very underwhelming. I personally don't see anybody that's out there right now who I think would be far and away a better option than some of the guys we have on the team. On top of that, we have a lot of young guys on this team who I think should be provided the opportunity to get some snaps because we don't know Tyler Guyton's future. The first year was bad. This year he's going into an injury. Year 3, they could cut their losses. They could move him to right tackle. Terrence Steele is coming up on the end of his career. He's coming up on the end of his contract. I'm sorry. We don't know what's going to happen with him. So there's a lot of potential moving parts for the next year or so. So I think this is kind of a blessing in disguise that we have a couple of young guys and we get to kind of see what we have in them. Janifa Hayward looks like a new name, so thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate you tuning in from Facebook. Jack Meeker, you pretty much said it, yeah. It does not sound like they'll be moving Tyler Smith to tackle. I know a lot of fans really want to see that, but I highly doubt that it happens unless there's a complete train wreck with some of these other guys who are competing at left tackle. Donald Ford Jr. asking, what do I think about the team this year? Personally, and I'll try to keep it short because that can be a very loaded question. Personally, um, I think we're gonna see a much better team than we saw last year. I mean, and if you go back and look at the 3 years prior to last year, we were a 12-5 team. We had several major injuries last year and still got 7 wins. So I don't know, Donald Ford, why people think this is going to be a 7-win team again. When we were healthy, we were a 12-win team. Add on top of that, um, if you looked at this team over the past 4 years, we had three glaring needs. Four, I'll say four glaring needs. One of them was at defensive tackle. We have not addressed that, so I'm not gonna be glass half full on everything I say. We have not addressed defensive tackle. Linebacker, we have addressed that. We got talent and we got intellect and we got youth. So linebacker is going to be better than it's been the past 5 years. Um, Number two wide receiver, which we've all been talking about since Amari Cooper left, that's probably going to be the best we've had since Dez and Beasley. So it's going back, what, 8 years? So wide receiver, which has been a kind of a negative point outside of CeeDee Lamb, is probably going to be the best that it's been in 7 years. And then running back, um, not since Zeke 2022 have I felt like we've had capable running backs. Tony Pollard was good for what he was, but he was not an every down back. We kind of saw him break down when given opportunity. Then we went through the train wreck they tried to give us last year. This year, I know the fan base is not. I know the fan base is kind of down on the running back group, but again, last year nobody thought Rico Dowdle was an NFL running back, and he got 1,000 yards. Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue are all better running backs than Rico Dowdle. Now, I know he had the production last year, but we're talking about from their history as well as a talent perspective. All three of those guys are better than Rico Dowdle. So there's no doubt in my mind that at least one of those guys can duplicate the level of production that Rico Dowdle gave us. So, in my opinion, we've improved at running back, wide receiver, and linebacker. And those and all the other positions are pretty much the same from a 12-5 team. So for me, I think we should hit 10 wins, 10, 11 wins. Um, I gotta see what this team looks like when the pads come on and the bullets start flying to really say if they have a chance to compete as a top 4 team. But as of now, I would definitely think they're gonna be better than they were last year. I've been talking about this every week, Jack Meeker. Vegas has them at 7.5. If you have any spare money laying around, place it on the overs because you're gonna win it. I see we got Jeff joining us. Jeff, thank you. Appreciate you tuning in. You want to hop on, Jeff? Let me know. I'll send you the link. Uh, got Joseph Warren coming in a little bit pessimistic, saying Jerry's the worst GM in football history. He doesn't know what he's doing. I would agree to an extent, but again, you got to give credit where credit's due. First round picks, we've pretty much been knocking them out of the park. Undrafted guys, we've pretty much been knocking them out of the park. The problem Jerry has is he does not know how to acquire free agents, and he does not know how to manipulate the salary cap to sign guys before they become free agents. So I wouldn't say he's the worst GM. You might want to take a look at Cleveland and Cincinnati and Las Vegas and Carolina for bad GMs. what Jerry's bad at, he's bad at, but what he's good at, he's really good. And you can give credit to Will as much as you want. He deserves all the credit in the world. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with Jerry Jones, and a lot of those decisions that are positive, you got to give him credit for. We could definitely improve at GM, but I wouldn't say he's the worst. Michael Rizzo giving them 12 wins. I got to see it on the field before I can give him 12, Michael. 7.5 is low, no matter what anybody tells me. I would put 4 or 5 figures on the over. I put a substantial amount, to be honest. I'm not going to say how much it is, but I'm definitely going to put some money on over 7.5 wins. Jack Meeker saying, I'm praying Tyler Smith's agent being account means his extension gets done this week. Brian Schottenheimer in interviews did allude after the Jake Ferguson contract that they are working on multiple contracts. And as you guys know, we have several guys who are going to be up for contracts this year, at the end of this year. Tyler Smith's going into his 5th-year option. Brandon Aubrey's going to be a restricted free agent. Deron Bland's going to be an unrestricted free agent. Let's see who else. Dante Fowler's on a 1-year deal. Terrence Steele is probably on his last year of his contract. Who else am I missing? All of our running backs are on 1-year deals. So there are going to be a lot of potential contracts. George Pickens is on a 1-year deal. We got a lot of people who are starters who are going to be on 1-year deals and several high-profile guys. So I think they definitely, and didn't even mention Micah, the one that goes without saying. But they definitely, in my opinion, are going to have to get at least 2 signings done this year to go into next offseason and kind of feel comfortable. Because you're going to franchise somebody. Somebody's going to walk. That's a given. Somebody's going to walk. Somebody's going to get franchised. And if you don't make 2 signings this offseason, a very, very talented player is going to leave your locker room, and you're going to have to wait to get a compensatory pick for him. Now, I know the fan base may feel like I don't want to see certain guys leave, but there are worse things in the world than getting a 3rd-round pick for a guy that you lose, like a Deron Bland or a George Pickens. You're going to get a 3rd-round pick back for those guys. I would hate to see him go, but you're definitely going to get some decent compensation for him. Micah's going to be at $41 million a year, 126 guaranteed. Joseph Warren says Micah Parsons deal will get done. 100% agree with you. They gotta milk it as long as they can. I mean, you guys know how the Cowboys like to do their negotiations. We saw last year Lamb got signed 2 weeks before the season. Dak got signed the week of the season. It's gonna get done. It's just all about when and not if. Michael Rizzo says, I think they got a lot of dead cap money next year for guys like Zeke, Michael Gallup, and I don't know who Dell is. Actually, Michael Rizzo, that dead cap money's hitting this year because those guys aren't on the team this year. Whatever Zeke money you had left, actually, I think the Zeke money may have been dead last year. The Michael Gallup money is probably this year. And they still have about $30 million in cap space right now. So that dead cap money is either absorbed now or was absorbed last year. So there's not a lot of dead cap money. The only dead cap money we'll have next year, as of right now, will be Zach Martin and maybe DeMarcus Lawrence. Maybe. I'll have to go back and look. But there's not going to be a lot of dead cap money next year. And then, of course, the cap is going up. And if they don't use the money this year, it's going to roll over to next year. And when Micah signs his contract, not if, when, there's going to be a boatload more of cap space that opens up for this year that can roll over next year. So don't let the media fool you, and don't let Jerry fool you. The pie's not short. It's not thin. There's a lot of money to go around. It's just how do they want to spend it? All right. Great questions, great comments. Let's get back in the offensive line talk. So again, these are the projected starters. I don't see any situation where I foresee this changing. The guy who plays the left tackle is the only question mark. So let's look at a couple of guys who are in line to play that position. According to notes, according to the notes that are coming out in practice, it seems to be all right, I lost my screen. Give me a second. I got to pull it up. But according to the notes that we're getting from camp, there seems to be a three-man competition for that left tackle spot. We've got free agent who recently joined the team who's in competition for that spot. And then we also have last year, 2 years ago, rookie Asim Richards. And then we also have last year's 7th round pick, Nathan Thomas. So it sounds like these are the three guys that are kind of competing for that left tackle spot this offseason. Now, Hakeem Adeniji is a veteran player, has been in the league by 4 or 5 years. He has some starting experience. He was the starting tackle on that Bengals Super Bowl team about 3 years ago. He's one of those guys who's a tweener guy, kind of a guard tackle guy. Not the most athletic tackle you would want. So most teams will try to slide him inside. But because we're thin at the position and he has a ton of experience, he's going to be a guy that's going to compete for that tackle spot. Next up is Awesome Richards, 5th round pick from 2 years ago. Played sporadically the past 2 years, giving us a lot of quality snaps when given opportunity. He's played a little bit at guard, a little bit at tackle. I've heard in training camp he's been playing some tight end, kind of a big tight end. When they go jumbo, they put in an offensive lineman as a tight end. They put the fullback in, and they just run it down the defense's throat. So he's been playing between tackle and tight end a lot. And then we got big Nathan Thomas, 7th round pick from last year. Jack Meeker's been kind of talking about him throughout the comments so far. Jack says Nate Thomas looks really good in a week's worth of practice, small school guy. Yeah, University of Louisiana, small school, got injured last year. I think he's a better right tackle than left tackle, to be honest. He's definitely a nasty player. I think he's a better right tackle than left tackle. I think he's more of a mauler type guy. I would even consider him as a guard. One of the reasons I was kind of shocked they drafted Booker is because we signed 2 guys. Hakeem Adeniji is one of them, and then we had Nathan Thomas from last year, who I thought would have been a great plug and play right guard. I love the Tyler Booker pick because he's a better player than Nathan Thomas, but Nathan Thomas to me is a better guard than tackle. There have been reports, like Jack Meeker said, that he's looked good in practice. I really think because we're looking at left tackle, I think his athleticism may start to show if he's given extended snaps. So for me, I don't think he's in the running to be the starting left tackle week 1. Again, I still think he's a guard / right tackle. I think it's a 2-horse race between Hakeem Adeniji and Awesome Richards. Personally, I'm putting my money on Richards only because I've seen him play in extended snaps and he was serviceable. He's not making any Pro Bowls. He's not a top half of the NFL talent at tackle, but I think he's good enough to hold down the fort and possibly develop if given more snaps. Because one thing you got to do, you got to give guys more snaps to see what you have in them. We saw with Terrence Steele, his first year he looked like garbage. He would call him Terrence Aluminum. His second year he came out and really balled out. Then he got injured. So you got to give guys an opportunity. And to me, when you got a young guy who I think is athletic enough to play the position, and I think he still has room to grow, I think Richards is going to be your front runner for your left tackle spot. So let's go ahead and pull that screen back up with who I think are the projected starters. So we got Richards at left tackle, Tyler Smith at left guard, Cooper Beebe center, Tyler Booker right guard, Terrence Steele right tackle. Richards may have some issues because, again, he's a young guy kind of getting thrown into the fire. But the thing I like about this coaching staff, I think we're going to be heavy on 12 personnel, which is 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, 1 running back. We have 2 great wide receivers. So teams pretty much can only double one side. So whatever side they shade to, the other guy's going to have some opportunities. So because of that, we can run more 12 personnel. We just signed Jake Ferguson, so we expect for him to be a little bit more active in the passing game. Schoonmaker's not a bad blocker. Brevin Spanford will be back. He's a really good blocker. And then we got another couple of young guys we'll talk about next week. All the guys are smart, and all the guys are tough, and all the guys can block well, except for John Stevens Jr. But we'll talk about that more next week. So I think these are the starters. We're going to run more 12 personnel, which means you're going to have a tight end over here helping. But like Jack Meeker said, we've got 4 really good guys on the line. Every team's going to have a weak link. If Richards is the weak link, he's the weak link. But if you've got 4 really good guys and 1 guy with a question mark, it's a lot easier to try to hide the question mark than if you have 3 guys and you got to basically try to plug the hole, plug a different hole on every other snap. So I think he'll be okay. Young guy, athletic. I think you got to give him a shot. All right, so those are the starters. Let's take a quick look at the backups. And this is a really solid backup offensive line group to me. Just going from left to right, Hakeem Adeniji. I just talked about it. 5-6 years of NFL experience, played in a Super Bowl. He's your backup left tackle. That's a great situation to be in. Sadiq Charles, a guy most fans may not know, former 4th-round pick, played for the Commanders for a long time, has a ton of starting experience, started his career off at tackle, so he has some athleticism. He eventually had to transition over to guard just to keep his career going. He's one of those tweener guys. He could play tackle if you need him to, but I think we have enough talent at the position that we can just let him settle in at that guard spot. That's a really good backup guard. Then we got Brock Hoffman, everybody's pet cat from last year. Anytime we've seen him play, he's always produced. Not a lot of negative snaps from Brock Hoffman. He's tough. He's dirty. He's smart. He has some starting experience. Again, another guy. You couldn't ask for a better backup than Brock Hoffman at center. Then we go to right guard. Got TJ Bass, another just dirty, gritty player. He should have had a chance to compete, but he was playing behind an all-pro the whole time he's been here. I love TJ Bass coming out of Oregon. He played left tackle in college. Obviously, he's not fit to play left tackle, but for a guard, he's strong, he's dirty, and he's more than athletic enough for the position. I like him as a backup guard. If we didn't draft Tyler Booker, I think it would have been Bass and Thomas competing for that right guard spot. But we got Booker, great signing. This only this only strengthens our backup group. And then last but not least, we got Nathan Thomas. Jack Meeker's been talking about him in the comments the whole show. 7th round pick from last year. Just a big, mean, physical offensive lineman. Plays with a mean streak on every snap. He came into the NFL with NFL strength. Unfortunately, he got hurt last year, but he was still able to be in the weight room, be in the locker room, be in film study. So he gets to come back this year as a guy who, while he hasn't played a lot, he has a year of NFL experience under his belt. The injury is completely behind him right now, and I think he's going to be a really good backup tackle slash guard. And if given the opportunity, I wouldn't be shocked to see him get some starter snaps this year or be in major consideration for right tackle next year. I really like Nathan Thomas with a year of development. I'm excited about seeing these guys in preseason because every guy has a mean streak. And if you guys have been following training camp and all the clips that you see, they are emphasizing toughness, physicality, and competition. So all of these guys have been competing in practice. I think we've seen a couple of fights. I think the one today, an offensive lineman was involved in. So these guys are tough. They're hard nosed, and they're coming out there to bully people. Yeah, Jeff, I just said it. I wouldn't be shocked if Nathan Thomas is our starting right tackle next year. I really like him as a player. Between him, Adeniji, if we keep him, if Robert Jones comes back next year, he's another guy we're about to talk about in a minute that I think is going to make some decisions tough next year for our coaching staff. All right, so I just alluded to it. We talked about the starters. We talked about the backups. There's some shuffling going on because of several key injuries. So as you guys know, last week, in typical Cowboys fashion, they make the first round pick start off with the second unit. That's not saying anything about Tyler Booker. That's just the way they've always done things. No matter who the first round pick was, they've started with the second unit when they joined the roster. Even Michael Parsons had to start the second unit. CeeDee Lamb didn't, but he wore 88, so that was different. So offensive line. Robert Jones was penciled in as the starter day one in training camp. Unfortunately, he went down with the injury, horrific injury in his neck. He's probably going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. Not 4 to 6 weeks. 2 to 3 months. Yes, that's true, Jack Meeker. He's going to be out about 3 months. Former starter for the Dolphins. Played well when they put him at guard. Not so much when they put him at tackle. So to me, he's kind of a Sadiq Charles type guy. He could play tackle if you needed him to, but he's much better as a guard. But another hard-nosed, tough guy. We've lost him for 3 months. So that kind of shuffles up the offensive line. And then we also just lost Tyler Guyton a couple days ago. Somebody rolled up on him. Initially, they thought it was an ACL. Luckily, his ACL was intact, but they found a fracture. Now, there have not been reports of how big the fracture is or where the fracture is, because those two things can play a major part in how long it takes them to come back. Now, they say it doesn't require injury. It doesn't require surgery, but a lower leg injury for an offensive lineman, that does not scream success to me. He's going to have to get shot up every week for pain. He's going to have to wear all type of braces. I mean, maybe they can go through some type of bone grafting to help fix the the fracture. But again, we don't know how big the fracture is. I said at the beginning of the show, I would be shocked if Tyler Guyton is not on the pup list to start the year off, which means he will miss the first 6 weeks. I just can't see how a guy with a fracture in his lower body can come back and play in a month. Jack Meeker said Adeniji left practice today, but they never said why. Let me look it up really quick because I hadn't heard anything. I didn't see anything about that, Jack, but I'll keep posting and I'll keep looking forward and hopefully I can find something about that. Haven't seen anything, so I'm assuming it's not major, but I hope it's not. Um, we'll find out. But these two guys are major parts of our offensive line who will probably be out for the first month of the season. Um, silver lining, we have a lot of guys on this team with talent, and we know what these guys are to an extent. Them being out is going to give us a better look at some other guys that we wouldn't necessarily get a look at, primarily Awesome Richards or TJ Bass or Nathan Thomas. So we're going to get a long look at those three guys in practice. All right, so we'll go to one of our last groupings of today. And these are the guys that are on the bubble. I'll be honest. I was shocked to see that Matt Waletzko is still on the roster. Matt Waletzko was a 4th-round pick. I believe it's been 5 years now. He was just all the physical traits you want. 6'8", 35-inch-and-a-half arms, athletic guy. Came into the league with shoulder injuries. And for the past 3 years, those shoulder injuries have come back to bite us. I believe he's had the surgery on both shoulders. Oh, I take it back. He has 36-inch arms. That's ridiculous. 36-inch arms for an offensive tackle. Ran almost a 540, sub 540. So he has all the athletic traits. For some reason, he can't stay healthy. He hasn't gotten on the field. I think this is his absolute last shot to make this roster. We got a different coaching staff in place. We talked about this for every position group. Nobody has any sponsors anymore. So the guys who drafted with Let's Go, they're no longer here. They brought in guys that they like. They brought in free agents. They've drafted guys. And then we have guys like Nathan Thomas who are coming out to prove something. This is his last shot. I think he's on the bubble. To be quite honest, I don't see how he can make the roster, especially considering we had those 2 injuries. Maybe one of those injuries will clear the way to make them carry another tackle. But it's going to be tough. And then Johnny Cornelius, right tackle, we drafted from Oregon. Jack Meeker said he was the one that threw the punch, and Shoddy tossed him from practice. Not a good way to start for a young guy. It does show some toughness, but you got to play smarter than that, especially when you got this type of competition in front of you. Personally, I don't think he's athletic enough to play tackle. His best bet to me is going to be to go to guard. I don't know if he's strong enough to play guard. He's going to be a tweener guy. I'm almost certain he gets cut and goes to the practice squad, and then maybe we can find something for him in 2 to 3 years. So to be honest, I don't expect either one of these guys to make the roster. So they're both on the bubble for training camp. Jack Meeker asked the question, do these guys play preseason for reps, even if they might start? Yes, you have to play them in the preseason, Jack, because it's a competition, especially for those guys who are competing for left tackle. There's no Tyler Smith's not going to play a lot of snaps. That's a given. Terrence Steele's not going to play a lot of snaps. That's a given. Outside of that, they may pull back on Cooper Beebe's snaps, but I would be shocked if you see Guyton or Steele for more than a quarter at any point in the preseason. All these other guys, they got to play because, again, new coaching staff, you don't know what you got in these guys. You basically have a starting position that's wide open, and you have a backup position behind a rookie that's wide open. So these guys have to compete to stay on this roster. And normally in preseason, you're going to see a first, second, and third unit. So for the offensive line's sake, all 10 of the 12 guys outside of Steele and Guyton, Steele and Smith, you're going to see a lot of them, whether they're projected starters or not. Jack Meeker said Josh Ball got released yesterday. Even Kellen didn't want him. Yeah, that's not a surprise. Another head scratcher pick by the Cowboys late in the draft. So these are your on the bubble guys. Again, they're both right tackles. So they're playing behind Terrence Steele, and they're competing with Nathan Thomas. I think Thomas is a better player than all of them. So I would be shocked if either one makes the roster unless it sounds like I said this earlier in the show. Awesome Richards was playing that big jumbo package as the tight end. Maybe they could put Matt Waletzko in because of his size and his athleticism and maybe sneak him out on the pass. I don't know. To me, that's the only shot he has of making this roster. Cornelius has zero shot, in my opinion, of making this roster. All right, so we got Jeff Pop joining us. Appreciate you tuning in. It's going to be a fairly short show tonight. I'm already on my last slide, so if you guys have any other questions before we get out of here, please let me know. Training camp, this position group, any position groups we talked about so far in the past. Now we'll go to last slide of the night, and this is the free agent list. Now, personally, I said this at the beginning of the show. There are not any free agent tackles available who would be an improvement on the guys we have. Adeniji is a 6-year starter, played in a Super Bowl. Awesome Richards is a 3rd-year guy with a ton of talent who's been in the Cowboys culture for 3 years. Nathan Thomas is a young guy with a lot of talent. You got to give him an opportunity. So personally, I don't see them bringing in any tackles. The only way I think we sign a free agent is if they won't do it, but maybe they say, you know what? It's only going to be 1 or 2 weeks if you go by what the coaching staff and the ownership have said. Tyler Guyton's only going to miss 6 weeks, which means he's only going to miss 1 or 2 regular season games. Let's plug a Band-Aid on that position. Let's move Tyler Smith to left tackle, and let's bring in a guard to play that spot. That's the only way I see them making a free agent signing. If they do that, these are the top 3 options at the guard position. Number 1, Dalton Risner, former Denver Bronco, former Minnesota Viking. He's always graded well in terms of PFF. Um, for some reason, I don't know why, wherever he goes, the team drafts a guard. I don't know if he's a bad locker room guy or what, but the on-field production says this guy should be on somebody's team and he should be a starting guard. He's still available right now. Former Iowa Hawkeye. So you know what type of toughness and strength that he brings as a player. Big Ten guy. This would be one of my first phone calls if I needed to. Second on the list, Brandon Scherf, former Washington Commander, former Jacksonville Jaguar. Again, if the Tyler Guyton injury is only a week or two, Brandon Scherf could fill in at tackle. I think he's a better guard. Jeff Pop, he was in Denver and then he went to Minnesota. So he was in Minnesota last year. But you're right. He was drafted by Denver. He was in Denver for 4 years. So Brandon Scherf, former Jaguar, he can play tackle if you need him to. Personally, I think he's a much better guard than tackle. So again, I think he's ready for a backup spot. I think he's at that age now where if he has to be a backup and kind of coach up the young guys, I think he'll be good at that. You may put him in and see he has a little bit left in the tank for another year. So I think this would be a low risk, high reward signing. So you say he couldn't keep up Trevor Lawrence. I don't think that was his fault. That offensive line was pretty bad as a whole. Brandon Scherf has been a Pro Bowl caliber guy pretty much his whole career outside of the last 2 years. I don't think he's fallen off that much of a cliff. But again, I don't think they're going to sign anybody. But if they do, from a mentor standpoint, Brandon Scherf will be a guy at the top of my list. And then last but not least, Will Hernandez. This is the no-brainer signing. It should have been done 3 weeks ago. It should have been done 3 months ago, to be honest. Former first-round pick, played for the Giants, kind of had a falling off, went to Arizona under our offensive coordinator, Clayton Adams, turned his career around. Now he's still sitting at home. The reason he's at home is because he is not an athletic guard. He plays with toughness, intelligence, and just pure dirtiness. I would probably say he's 50% dirty, 30% tough, and 20% smart. He is going to be in a fist fight every single snap. But his offensive line coach, who's our offensive coordinator, knows that. He knows what buttons to push to make him a good player. And he was a really good player last year, despite those limitations. If you look across our line, you see a lot of tough, gritty guys. He just falls right in. He probably comes in and he's the biggest badass on the offensive line. That's what type of guy he is. So bring him in, let him play a couple of weeks. Maybe you see the offensive line looks better with Tyler Smith at tackle and Will Hernandez at guard. Maybe you want to experiment with it a little bit longer. Maybe Tyler Booker has a setback and you need a guy to come in and pick up the slack a little bit. Will Hernandez is perfect for that. Again, knows the scheme. Offensive coordinator knows him. He played well in the scheme. So if, I'm not saying they are, but if they are considering a free agent, I would be looking at the guard position, and these 3 guys would be at the top of my list. Jeff Pop asked the question, what happened to the old guy from Mexico? So he is currently with the San Francisco 49ers. So the Cowboys brought him in as one of our international program guys. So the Cowboys were able to have a roster exemption for him. So he's been kind of buried on the practice squad for the past 3 years. So for some reason, after he lost his eligibility, the Cowboys decided to change him from an offensive tackle to a defensive tackle at 6'7", 320. I don't get it. I don't know. But the Niners signed him to a futures contract this offseason. So now he is a member of the San Francisco 49ers. And I just looked him up. Apparently, he was suspended for 6 games for violating the NFL's performance enhancing substances policy. So he's going to miss the first 6 games of the year. So maybe the coaching staff do something that the Niners didn't, because he is now a Niner and he's going to miss the first 6 weeks of the season. Wow. That's interesting. All right, so that's pretty much all we have for this show. Again, just to sum it all up, I love what's been done with the offensive line. I think 4 of our 5 starters are really solid. I know the fan base is still kind of down on Terrence Steele, but I can assure you, most of Terrence Steele's problems were scheme. Terrence Steele is not the most athletic tackle, and to ask him to block for 4 and 5 seconds is a recipe for disaster. This year, they're going to start doing more. They're going to change the pass sets. So now he's not going to be going into what's considered a full pass set. He's going to be doing more half sets and jump sets, which means Terrence Steele has 34.5-inch arms. Instead of backpedaling, waiting for the guy to come and reacting, he's going to come off the ball, initiate contact, and then step back. So I think that's going to help him a lot. And then if we believe what the coaching staff says, they're going to get the ball out of Dak's hands quicker, which means he's not going to have to block as long. And I think if you got Terrence Steele, who's not blocking for more than 4 seconds, I think you've got a really good right tackle. Cooper Beebe is only going to get better. I think the scheme is going to really work in his favor. Tyler Smith. He's going to do what he does. And then whoever's at left tackle, if he's not the best, we have ways to shade and hide his deficiencies. So I think the offensive line is going to be much more improved than it was last year. I know we lost Zach Martin, Hall of Famer, first ballot, but last year Zach Martin was not Pro Bowl level Zach Martin. So even though we've got Tyler Booker replacing him, the drop off from last year to this year, not Zach Martin that we know, but last year's Zach Martin to this year's Tyler Booker, I don't think that drop off is going to be as drastic as many fans think. And to me, all the other positions around him are going to improve. And if I had to be honest, 100% honest, I think Richards right now is a better player than Guyton, especially when you factor in that Guyton's playing with a fracture and he's losing valuable training camp time that he needed. So, yeah, I think Richards or Adeniji are both going to be better tackle options than Guyton. And I hope that when he returns, which I think is going to be week 4 to 6 and not week 1, I think those guys are going to be playing to a level where you don't want to rock the boat and you just want to keep it rolling the way it is. Jack Meeker asked the question about Will Hernandez. Is he on speed dial like Gilly? I would probably say yes. We talked about this all the time on the show. There are certain positions like defensive tackle, offensive guard, running back, linebacker, not Mike linebacker, but the other ones. They don't like training camp practice, defensive ends. If they can sit at home during training camp and then join a team week 2, week 3 of the preseason, they're ecstatic because these are literally the dog days of football for them. If you're a 5, 6, 7 year veteran, you don't see the point of going to training camp and going out there every day and stretching and running and doing 7-on-7. You just want to come out there when the bullets are flying. So I think a couple of guys like a Will Hernandez, Stephon Gilmore, I think they're choosing not to be on the team right now because they want to save their bodies from the rigors of training camp because they're smart guys. They know what to do when it's time to get on the field. Training camp is really not going to be beneficial for them. It's really just going to add more wear and tear to their bodies. Same thing for defensive tackle. I think there's still a defensive tackle out there that they're considering, but they're probably waiting till we get closer to preseason because for one, I don't think the defensive tackles want to sign, and for two, this gives the team and the coaching staff a chance to scout and analyze the guys we have on the team. Because again, new coaching staff, they don't know what they have in Mozzie Smith. So I think not bringing a defensive tackle who's a plug and play guy gives them more of a chance to really scout Mozzie. But I would be shocked if we don't see a defensive tackle by week 3 of training camp. And I'm looking at these 3 options. I'm going back to an old slide. Raekwon Davis, former Indianapolis Colt. I think he's at the top of the list. Austin Johnson, former Buffalo Bill. I think he's a guy that they're watching, but I really think Raekwon is the guy. Taven Bryan, if they're going to sign him, I think this would have to be a signing that's made by next week just because he's still a young guy and he'll need to come in and learn the scheme. But these other 2 guys, they can sign them 3 days before the season starts, and I think they'll both be good. So, defensive tackle, I think we're going to be okay once those guys come in. Jack Meeker asked the question, is the guy released from the Raiders automatically off limits for Dallas? He was a good DT. There is a lot of information that hasn't come out yet about that situation. I think it's a wait and see for everybody. If it was only from a talent perspective, he would have already been on the team. But I don't want to put the speculations out there, but you guys follow social media. I think there are a few lifestyle questions that some owners and GMs want to wrap their heads around before they consider signing a guy like this and bringing him in their locker room. So I would just pay close attention to that situation and see how it pans out. But if we're talking from a talent perspective, absolutely, I think he's a potential option. On top of that, he's already been paid from Oakland, so you should be able to get him pretty cheap for this year. Jack Meeker asked another question. Dak having up to 6 receiving options, these players going to be sub 2 seconds. I definitely agree with that. We've talked about that before. I mean, you're going to have to pick your poison. If you double CD, Pickens is going to be one-on-one, or vice versa. Or if you put them both on the same side, you're going to open it up for a talented third receiver like a Mingo or a Tolbert or a Turpin. So, and then you got a healthy Jake Ferguson. And if you guys have been watching training camp, our running backs all look really good coming out of the backfield as receivers. Blue hung his hat on that in college. Javonte Williams has had 40 catches a year as a pro, and Miles Sanders a couple of years ago was one of the better dual threat running backs in the league before he got buried on the roster with Carolina. So we're going to have a ton of receiving options. I don't expect the ball to be in Dak's hand for long. Um, I think you're going to see a lot of what people try to refer to negatively as Dink and Dak this year. I think it's going to be a lot of hitches and comebacks and quick slants with the occasional deep ball threat. But I think you're going to see a very methodical passing game now that we have receivers who are able to turn a field and make something happen. So I think the ball's going to come out quick, and I think there are going to be a lot of explosive plays that stem from 5 to 7 yard passes. All right, guys, that's pretty much all I have for today's show. Next week, we'll be finishing up our position breakdown, talking about the running back and the tight end position. Tomorrow is the Hall of Fame game, which means preseason will be kicking off starting next week. So as we get closer to the season, we're going to have more training camp notes, more football notes. We're going to be able to come on here, talk about the games, break down what we've seen. I may put the whiteboard back up and we'll talk about certain plays and certain schemes. We will be doing our fantasy show at some point in August. So we've got a lot coming to you guys in the month of August. As we get closer and closer to real football in September, we'll probably have Amanda come back and do another giveaway before the season starts. And we have a couple of other guests still lined up to join the show. So make sure that you guys continue to stick with us every Wednesday night, 8:30 Central Standard Time for the Fifth Quarter Podcast. We've got a lot of great things coming for you guys as we enter the regular season. And for you guys that are new viewers, make sure you continue to stick with us during the regular season because we have in my opinion, we have a great format. It's very informative, it's very interactive, and it's going to keep you guys informed about what we've seen the week before and what to expect the following season. So make sure you guys continue to stick with us every Wednesday, 8:30 Central Standard Time. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. I'll probably be doing a couple of shows outside of the fifth quarter just because we may have some colorful guests that the creators of DC4L may not want to have their content on the show. So make sure you guys subscribe to me because we're going to have some good content outside the show as well. Continue to stick with us every Wednesday, 8:30 Central Standard Time. I will see you guys next week. And as always, let's go Cowboys. Get ready for some football. You already know Charlie. You already know it's Charlie. So get ready for some football tomorrow and some preseason football from the Dallas Cowboys. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good night.